Hi, I'm Genevieve from Warm Fuzzies by Jen, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make the OctoNuby. So you can get this kit online on my Etsy shop at www.warmfuzziesbyjen.etsy.com. Kits are available in multiple different colors, so enjoy! Okay, so to get started, first I'll list off the list of materials that you'll need to make your OctoNuby. You need to have some core wool, about a half of an ounce. You'll need some colored wool that you want to make your OctoNuby, so for the main part of the body and the feet. Again, about a half of an ounce of batting for that. You also do need a little bit of black, white, and pink. That would be for the eyes and for the cheeks. And last but not least, you do need your needle felting needle, and a foam pad is also very handy. So I have a single needle as well as a double needle. For some of our work, I prefer to use the double needle. It makes it go a little bit faster, but you can get away with doing the whole thing with just a single needle. Or you can also get tools that you can put in 4 or 6 or 8 felting needles into the tools, and you can use those as well. I prefer to stick with either a double or a single, and I'll let you know when I'm going to use either one of those. So the first thing we need to do is make our ball. So what we need to do is take a chunk of our core wool. So this is just unbleached, undyed wool, and we need to form it into a spherical shape. So what I do is I just start at an end, and I just kind of fold it over, and I start to roll it into a ball form. And I try and get it as tight as possible. So I'm just going to roll like this until I've finished my chunk that I've got there. And then I'm just going to take my single needle and I'm just going to felt in the end. So it's stuck down now. So that's not quite the size I want. So what I'm going to do is take another piece of my core wool and I'm just going to wrap it around the shape that we already have. So you just can do that with this. There's no problem adding. There's not going to be any seams that you see or anything like that. So I'm going to wrap that around, tack down the end again, and just shape it a little bit here. Fold that over so it's not quite so pointy. All right, so that's about the size we're gonna want. When you felt, the fibers do, what happens is they get together and then they can't come apart. So when you felt, the ball will shrink a little bit, but we are also gonna add another layer of color. So that's about the size I want mine to be. It's gonna end up being about the size of a tennis ball. So what you do is I will now take I would take my double needle and I'm just going to felt this ball until it is fairly firm and round. So there's no right or wrong in terms of firmness when you're felting. It can be super squishy and soft, or it can be really hard. The more you felt it, the harder it will get. For things that I make for ornaments, I tend to make them a little bit on the firmer side, but because they're hanging on a tree and are meant for decorative purposes, they don't really need to be super hard. If you were making a toy, you would want it to be much more firmer, and you would maybe even want to wet felt that. And for ornaments, they can be really as loose as you like. So I'm going to just go ahead and felt that until it is the firmness and the size that I want. Okay, so now we have our ball and it's the size and firmness that we want. It's still a little bit lumpy, which is fine because what we're going to do now is add our color, and when we add our color, we're going to make our surface much smoother. So this ball has a jingle bell inside, if you can hear that. So that's something that I put in some of my ornaments just to give them a little bit more Christmas cheer. It's just taking a jingle bell toy insert and wrapping your wool felt around that, and the technique is exactly the same as when you're not using a jingle bell. So you just felt it, and the bell's in the middle and it doesn't interrupt your felting at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a portion of our colored felt and we're going to wrap it around our ball. So we take our ball and we just wrap that around. We don't need the layer of felt to be super thick. We just want it to be thick enough so that the white or the off-white of the core wool doesn't show through. So I'm going to take that and just tack it down where my ends join here. So I've just tacked that down. And then I'm going to tack down the ends and I'm going to add some more to the spots that are still white. So when you're felting, you want to make sure that your needle goes in straight in and straight out. You don't want to put it in and bend it, because what will happen is that will break. So I've tacked that down and you can see it's good all around this way, but the two ends still have some of the core wool showing. So I just take some more felt. It's really simple, and you won't even tell when you're done that you've added color in a separate way. So I've just put that right over top there, and I'm just going to tack that down. So that looks good now. It's all covered, and so I just have this end. So just take some more here, tack this down, and that's good there. So now you can see our ball's kind of lumpy and not great looking. So what we need to do is go all around our ball and make sure that we tack down everything and that it becomes a nice smooth surface. So what I do is I start normally with my double needle, and I just poke at it all over. I try to be as even as possible so I don't have one spot in my ball that's super felted and another spot that's really not felted at all. Just keep going around and around until it looks like you want it to look. So what I do is I start with my double one and I get it so it's fairly smooth, and then I switch to the single and just smooth out any of the smaller lumps that are still there. So once that's done, your ball should look something like this. So it's about the size of a tennis ball, and that's going to be our main part. So you can see I can still squish it a little bit, but it's fairly firm and nice ball shape. So what we need to do now for our OctoNuby is make our little feet. So we need to get 8 of these little guys. So what I do is, you could do the exact same method as you do with this ball and do some core wool and then put a layer of color on top. Because these are so tiny, I just use the color felt. So that's why you end up needing about the same amount of felt for color as you do for core wool. So what I do is I just take a piece of my colored felt batting, and the exact same thing as we did to start our ball, just roll it. It's just on a smaller scale. So we're just going to roll it. And this is where your foam pad comes in handy. Because this is such a small piece, you don't want to be holding it while you're felting, because you will poke your finger and it hurts a lot when you do that. So what I do is I would take my foam pad and place my small sphere ball on there and felt it. So I'm holding it on the felt pad and I'm felting the ends down. So there you can see I've just tacked the ends down. So what you're going to do is make sure that that becomes nice and smooth, because we want this to end up looking like this. So you're going to make 8 of these. Okay, so I've made all 8 of my little OctoNuby legs. So now we need to attach them to the main part of our OctoNuby. I like to do the legs first so that I can get an idea of where they're going to sit and then put our face on after that. So what we do is we're going to felt them on, and so there's no sewing required whatsoever in this project. And what you're going to do is take 1 foot, and you can start anywhere on your ball. So because we don't have anything else on our ball, there's no markers or anything. So you're just going to take it, place it on your ball, kind of hold it down, and you're going to, instead of just going like up and down, you're going to angle your needle The important thing to do here is to make sure it comes in and out at the same angle. So you're not going in and bending it and trying to get it out, because then your needle will break. So we just want to go all the way around. I'm just going to felt all the way around the base of that. So you're wanting to go through the top needle and then, through the top ball into the main ball. You will be able to feel it. So you just want to go all the way around, and you can see it's already starting to attach there. So we want it to be a bit more secure than that. So you just keep going around until you feel like your small ball is attached well enough to the main ball. And we can tack it on more as we go. So we have one leg on. So what we want to do is we want to place our other leg as close as possible to the first leg. You might want to place all 8 of your legs on your OctoNuby to get an idea of how big your circle needs to be to fit all 8 of your legs. So as you can see, so that's holding all 8 legs down. So you could pin them down to get a good idea of the shape you want it to be. So what I need to do is, this is our first one that's already attached. This is going to be my second one. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'll tack it down for now, and then I can go back and make sure it's in really well. So what you can actually do, which is a really great thing with this, is just tack all of your feet down, and if you need to move them, if they're not in really well, you can pull them off. So I'm just going to attach this one really lightly to make sure it's in the right spot. So it's on there, but if I pull it, it'll come off. And then I'm going to attach the next one and the next one. And I'm going to go all the way around so that when our octopus is sitting on the ground, it would have feet that look like this, that go all the way around to make a nice base. So I'm just going to tack them all down, because then if I do need to move any, I can. So you go ahead and do that, and then we will move on to the next step. Okay, so I've just tacked down all of my feet, and you can see that this is what it looks like when it's laying down on the ground, and this is the bottom view. So they're pretty good. I might want to just adjust a couple. I can even just say, oh, that one's in too far, I want to move it out, and then hold it there and felt it on. So once it looks like this, with all of your feet tacked down, or your legs, you're going to go ahead and just felt those on really well. So what I do is I just squish them down a bit with my hand, and I will go along the outside edge. So I'm just going in at an angle through the very bottom of where my small ball is attached to my big ball, just enough to catch those threads, and I can already feel that that one's on a lot better than it was 2 seconds ago. So I'm gonna do all of the outsides, and then I'm gonna go along and do all of the insides. And then once that's done, you can actually kind of felt these a little bit together, and that would just give them more strength. Because they are all touching, you can felt these balls to each other. Okay, so our feet are all firmly attached now. And the next thing we're gonna do is add our little mouth snouty thing to our OctoNuby. I'm not sure exactly what you would call it. So what we need to do is take, again, some more of our color. And what I like to do is kind of take a long section and twist it. Because we want that mouth part to have some dimension out from the ball and look good, it's good to twist it because it helps keep the fibers in, and it's much easier to form than if you're just trying to build up without having this twist in. So we're gonna decide which side of our OctoNuby looks like the front part, and you're just gonna take your rope, kind of. So mine is way long enough, so I'm gonna rip off this part at the end that I'm not gonna need. So that's plenty long enough to go around for what we need. So you're just going to place it down on your ball. So mine's too long, but I'm going to, you can see I have this long end. I'm gonna tack this down and then I'm gonna get rid of that end. So you just place that where you want it in the size of circle that you want. So you can see I've tacked it down. So it would be this way. And this end is too long. So I'm just gonna actually cut that off. You can rip it. When things are just tacked on, if you rip it, sometimes you rip it off. And I don't wanna do that today, so I'm just going to cut that piece off. So it looks like that. And what I'm gonna do is just felt around. So I'm gonna tack, it's now tacked down, and what I want to do now is clean it up. So I want to make it so that the outside is really nice and round, and there's some definition to that sticking out, and the same with the inside. So this is a little bit fatter than I would normally have it, so I'm gonna make it thinner as I go. So as you can see, I've started tacking in that end. So you can see it still sticks out when you have a side view from there. So you're just going to felt that until it looks like you want it to look. It doesn't matter if this isn't firmly attached because this isn't a piece that should fall off once you're hanging it up as an ornament or if you're using it on your desk. If you plan to use this as more of a plaything, you need to make sure that everything is attached really firmly. I wouldn't suggest using this as a plaything for a small child because of the small legs. If they do come off, those could pose a choking hazard. But for ornaments and things like that, you tend to have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of how well things are secured on. Obviously, the more secure, the longer it'll last. But for a decorative piece like the nose / mouth of the octopus, that's not something that's really gonna get a lot of wear and tear. So as you can see, I'm just kind of giving it a little bit more detail and shape. It's still not quite as smooth as I would like it. So what I'm gonna do is just keep poking at it until it looks the way I would like it to look. Okay, so I finished putting on my little mouth nose piece. So you can see it still has some dimension from the side and it looks fairly smooth and nice and round. So now we get to do the fun part for me, which is adding the eyes and the details. It just gives your little ball some personality and some character. So what we're going to do first is add the cheeks. Because our eyes kind of overlap the cheeks, we're going to put the cheeks on first and then we can overlap those eyes and it will just lay over top. So to add color to this, what we're going to do is just layer our pink on top of our body color. So in my case, the teal or blue here. So you need a very small amount of the pink felt. So what you're going to do is kind of place it down where you're going to want it on your ball. So this is a little bit too big right now. I might need to make it a little bit thicker, but we can layer it as many times as we want. So I'm going to want the cheek to be about there. So I just hold it on and felt it. You can see it's being tacked down. So what you do is or what I like to do, is just shape it as I go. So I want this cheek to be round. So you can kind of just very gently pull some of the fibers with your needle to make it round. And I like to go around the outside edge first, just to get kind of my outline so that I know where my shape is going to be. And then if there is any areas that you need to fill in, you can just add more pink. So you can see that it's getting a nice round shape to it. So you're just going to keep felting that on until it is nice and smooth and flat with the other surface of the ball. Okay, so there's one cheek done. You can see I made it nice and round, and it's nice and smooth with the surface of my ball. So now you just need to do the exact same thing on the other side. So you're going to want to try and match it as well as you can in terms of size and placement. So we want it to be about the same distance from the nose and about the same size, just on the other side. So you're just going to take a little bit more of your pink and do that same thing. Okay, so now I have both cheeks put on my little OctoNuby, and now all we have left to do is add his eyes. So we need our black felt, and we're just going to do pretty much the exact same thing we did with the cheeks. Is we're going to layer a tiny bit of black over top and just felt that on. So I like to overlap the eyes a little bit onto the cheek. So we're just going to kind of put it here so it kind of cuts in a little bit over top of this edge of our cheek, so the inside edge into the nose. So I'm just going to take my black here, put it down kind of where I think it should go, tuck it in, so like that. That's a little bit big right now, but I'm going to fix that up as I go. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with the eye, and as I go around, just make the edge nice and smooth and round. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So you can see it's starting to get there. Going to make it a little bit smaller, and there is a little bit of wiggle room when you're working with felt in terms of shaping it while you're going, which is kind of nice. You don't need to put it down and have it exactly where you need it, because you can move it around a little bit and work with it a little bit while you're attaching it. And if you're worried about making something too big, start off small, because you can add and add, and you won't even be able to tell the difference when you're done. So that's about the size I'm going to make it. It's not smooth yet, it's still pretty rough. So I'm just going to go ahead and felt that till it's nice and smooth, and then I'm going to put the other black on, and then what we're going to do is add a little bit of white, and that really brings our octopus's eyes to life. So go ahead and do your 2 black circles for your eyes, and then we will add our white highlights. Okay, so now we have both of our black eyes on, and he's really cute, but we need to add a little bit of sparkle to his eyes. And the way we do that is by adding just a touch of white. So you really need a small amount of white to make his eyes just kind of get some life into them. So just a tiny bit, that might even be too much. What we're going to do is, again, just layer on top. So I like to put a little dot. You can do 1 dot, you can do 2, you can do 3, depending on the look you're going for. I'm going to start with 1 little white dot up in kind of the top third of this guy's eye. So I just kind of tack it in once and then wrap it a little bit around my needle and then tack it in again in about the same spot because we want it to be really small. So you can kind of see it starting to get tacked down there. So we want to keep it small. I normally do circles. You can do kind of an oval shape. You could do a little bit of just like a little crescent. There's lots of different ways you can add the white. So there's one little eye with the white in it. I'm going to do the same on the other side, and then I think this guy will be done. So I went ahead and added 2 dots to our OctoNuby's eyes, but there he is, all finished and ready to go. Now if you like, you can add a ribbon or a string to the top of his head and make that into an ornament, either for your car or for a Christmas tree, or you can just leave him like this. If you would like to attach a ribbon, please visit my other tutorial on how to do that. I'll have a couple of different methods on how you can do that, either by felting it on or by sewing it on. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you enjoy your new little OctoNuby. Thanks a lot.